Hey Guru Nation, welcome back to a very special video. So we've got SIV and we've got Robert Goldman, who I've known from LinkedIn
Yeah.
actually, and serendipitously was able to get a study for our new site, our newish site here in Yuma, Arizona, Yuma Clinical Trials. And Robert has an interesting career. He has a lot of experience in this industry. And I know a lot of you guys are curious as far as working for a CRO, working for a sponsor. Did you ever work at a site level?
I worked at a site level in 2009 for a
So
couple
he's
of
worked
years.
at
Yeah.
every level: site, CRO, sponsor, any vendor.
No vendors.
But you've worked with tons of vendors.
Tons
I
of
just
vendors.
know from one study that you've worked with enough vendors.
Yeah,
So,
tons.
Robert, how did you get started in research?
So I actually went to medical school and graduated from St. Matthews in Grand,
Really?
yeah, in Grand Cayman in 2010. And a good colleague of mine who's also in the industry, Russell, told me about clinical research, and I was just like, really? It was never on my periphery. But I also knew that there was a little bit of a stigma coming from the Caribbean with a foreign medical grad, and I definitely did not want to do family medicine. I just didn't, that to me was like a monotonous job, doing the same thing, going to the same place every day.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's really how it would happen. And I actually got introduced to some recruiters at INC back in 2010, and they actually flew me out, and I got my first break as a project specialist. So I was coming in with all this education, master's, doctorate,
MD.
exactly, and I'm like, oh my god, I got to start at the bottom of this totem pole here. And I was working in a cubicle, and I was like, oh, I couldn't believe I was doing this, but I knew that it was, the ends were going to justify the means.
Yeah.
I knew the potential.
So you are an IMG, International Medical.
Correct.
We have a lot of IMGs watching, and they
Yeah.
all want to, the ECFMG is very hard to pass. So they're all like looking at research now, and you're saying the best place to start is at the site level.
At the site level, it's the best stepping stone
For everybody, too, not just for IMG.
Yeah, your foundational knowledge, because when you get to whether it's the CRO side, the sponsor side, the vendor side, understanding the site level dynamic and what patients who are so gracious to donate their time to us to further advance medicine, understanding the burden and what they go through is paramount to what we do, no matter what level we go to. Whether I'm at the sponsor side, spent over 10 years on the CRO side, but having that knowledge of the site level operation is just critical to know what we're doing each day, and we're doing this for the patients.
So because your site, CRO and sponsor, I've never been in that situation. I've been site and CRO, not sponsor. Which one was your favorite?
Honestly, I love the sponsor.
Sponsor.
Yeah, so I've been at the sponsor now for coming up on around 8 months. I left the CRO side of the business in September of 2021.
And let me guess, your least favorite.
My least favorite, honestly,
CRO.
It is now.
Yeah.
100%. But I enjoyed the site level and the CRO, and I'm grateful for the CRO experience like that.
Because without that, do you think it would have been possible to go sponsor?
No.
Why?
I really don't believe. I just think from the trajectory, because working on a sponsor side and overseeing CRO conduct from a day-to-day operational perspective, and being a therapeutic lead, leading a certain compound that's going through many different clinical trials, you have to understand how CROs operate, so that way it's like you've been there, done that type of a deal, right? So when I work with CROs, they're not going to tell me anything that I haven't already done or experienced, right?
Because you're vetting CROs now.
Exactly. We're putting out RFPs, requests for proposals, and we're looking at bidding them out, and services comparison, budget comparisons, capabilities, systems, their structure, their infrastructure, what they can and cannot do, what their thresholds are, their timelines, their enrollment projections, their enrollment rates, all these different variables that go into building a trial to make sure it's delivered on time, is crucial. So to understand the dynamic of how CROs operate is something that I don't think I would be as equipped as I am today, being on the sponsor side, in the position that I'm in now, without it. So I think it was invaluable experience. I'm grateful for it. Being at large CROs, having that exposure and the guidance, and certainly I was a monitor for many years as well.
Are you CRA?
Yep, I was a CRA
And
for
we
many
can
years
pan.
as well.
This is a cliffhanger for future videos. We're gonna get our CRA interviewed. Just not today. She's shy, but we're gonna get her. She has to come every 8 weeks. So
Yeah.
we'll eventually get Linda on there. But Robert, how did you know? Like, because not only can you vet CROs with your experience at CROs, but sites as well, right? Sites are, and I think CROs do the same thing. They just try to win the project, so they underbid usually, at least from what I hear. Sites tend to overemphasize how much they can enroll just so they can get the study. So how do you vet that as a at the sponsor level, like study director?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dan. I mean, it's very difficult. It's not a one size fits all answer. A lot of the times, I lean on relationships and historical performance. So a lot of our CROs, have systems, CTMS systems that have historical performance on sites. There's no shortage of sites, right? There's hundreds of sites contact me through clinicaltrials.gov on a daily basis.
Daily.
On a daily
Wait,
basis,
hundreds?
hundreds. I'll show you. Yes, hundreds that want to participate in our study.
That's us a lot of the time too.
So there's a lot of people in there, right? Searching indications and
But I
just
didn't
kind
know
of
it was hundreds.
hundreds. And so it's
What do
very,
you like in those emails?
I
What
don't
sticks out?
like the emails.
But
I
like
actually
when
prefer
you
not
see-
to get them.
Yeah, no,
because honestly, I hate to say this, but it's difficult to trust.
Yeah.
Because they're business development people and they're trying to grow the business.
Mm-hmm.
So in my situation, like when you and I connected, right? We had a very frank, candid conversation.
Right.
I told you where we were at from a sponsor perspective.
Yeah.
And I told you what we needed. And, you were able to make a determination on how we're going to be doing this process very atypically, right? We kind of curtailed the SQV, site qualification visit. We did not do a formal PSSV, if you will, or SQV, terminology situation there. And we kind of combined and did a lot of shortcuts based on, the relationship you and I developed pretty quickly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Zoom meetings, team meetings, face-to-face contacts. And of course, having conversations with the PIs. What I will say is no matter how much I vet or how much anybody can vet a site, there is no guarantee, right? There's never a guarantee. And there's all these different strategies that you can employ when you're not meeting enrollment timelines, right? Do you extend the timelines? Do you add more sites? Do you add recruitment vendors? Do you adjust site budgets? Are you competitive enough? What is it going to take? There's all these different risk mitigating strategies that you look at from the sponsor side to make sure that you're meeting milestones, deliverables, because we want to keep things moving along right through the pipeline. So, it's a very difficult question, Dan, to circle back, how do you vet a site? And I think, calling, having the dialogue, an email is certainly not it. I went through the hundreds and hundreds of contacts that we get through clinicaltrials.gov.
Wow.
And not a single site did I end up using, for our study, just for the simple fact that, I needed to rely on my relationships that I've built throughout my tenure in the industry. And, using sites and relationships that I have with people to kind of lean on. And so in your example, I feel like I can call you and say, Dan, we're falling short. What can we do to fix this?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if I don't have that relationship established, it makes it much more difficult to go and say, hey, we gave you a shot. You're not willing to do anything, or you're not willing, you're not meeting your contractual obligations. What do you do? I mean,
so even for someone at your level, you're on LinkedIn, you understand the importance of networking,
sure.
and staying current.
It's the most important thing. Networking, and we have this is a very small industry, right?
Do you go to conferences?
I do go to conferences, and I plan on going to a lot more conferences.
Which ones are your favorites?
So I love ACRP. I love SOCRA, and I'm going to be going into a lot of different pain conferences. Not so much clinical research centric, but more pain studies.
Right.
Just from the sponsor side to advocate our compound and to start getting the knowledge out there about that. But I think ACRP is a phenomenal conference to network with. I'm going to be honest, I don't know all of the great ones that I would love to go to, but I mean, I think networking is critical. It's absolutely critical, because again, at the end of the day, there's nothing that can be done to penalize a site from a sponsor perspective for not meeting their obligations, right?
Just not use them again.
Well, all right, the only thing I can say is, we're not going to give you our next phase 3 study or our next phase 2 study. So, I mean, and then it's like, well, how upsetting is it to a site that has 15 to 20 protocols going on at one time? Probably not too upsetting.
In this kind of market, no, there's a lot of studies.
Exactly.
But you've been through all the ebbs and flows. Like, you've been through low study supply.
Oh, yeah.
High. Right now we're in high study supply.
Yeah.
So is it true that like sponsors can't be as picky now as they are when there's a low study supply?
I think we can be picky. I really do. And I can tell you that I am picky.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I'm accountable for delivering the project. And from a CRO perspective, we delegate certain responsibilities to the CRO, but at the end of the day, my executive management team comes to me, and if I don't deliver on milestones, I end up at places like this where I get to interact and say, "Hey, I have to." Yeah,
it's not all that
exactly,
bad.
And we get to bring in some good bean burritos and things like that. But
by the way, we should have got a reaction to like first bite on the video.
I'll tell you what, it was worth it. That bean burrito was phenomenal. So I got to tell you,
2 more. Let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
2 kind of people watching this right now, if they stuck till the end. People trying to get in the industry to get a job, or new sites. All right, let's go first. People trying to get into the industry, whether they're CNA, like Desiree, or an IMG, like you were.
Mm-hmm.
What's their best bet for getting in?
The best bet is leaning on your medical background. You're already 5 steps ahead of somebody who was in a real estate office last week filing papers. Okay? Lean on your medical background, be a sponge, absorb knowledge, be willing to learn, and read Dan's book.
Thank you for that.
Because it's very informative. Watch Dan's videos, engage in different forums, talk to many people, and wherever you see the opportunity to get in the door, whether it's at the site level, whether it's an administrative internship, whether it's a project specialist role where you're doing admin work and you're on the CRO side, any stepping stone that you can use to get into the industry is certainly valuable. But from a person that has medical background, you're already so far ahead of the curveball, because the terminology is one less thing that needs to resonate with you. You've already got that under your belt.
And then a little more complicated for the site owners. They're trying to get your attention for studies.
Yeah.
You said you don't like emails, but they'll keep emailing you. But like, what are some other ways to get your attention?
Yeah. So I mean, I think that the best way is it's very. A lot of sites reach out, and it's almost like they reach out like, we are requesting to be part of this, and we want to be part. It's like, well, I mean, I didn't know we, owed you something, right? I didn't know we had to,
they're entitled. Site owners,
they're entitled. So I think it's all about the approach, right? Providing a background of your clinic, your capabilities, your equipment on site, your team, what type of recruitment staff do you have? How many coordinators full-time do you have? What your therapeutic experiences are, what your providers' experience are. sub-I, PIs included, extenders, nurse practitioners, PAs, understanding the infrastructure, and I think providing historical metrics is really, really important for us and me, especially as a sponsor, because at the end of the day, when I look at a site and potentially bring them on, I look at the risk-benefit ratio. And I say to myself, well, based on historical performance and the amount of trials that they've conducted in a similar indication, they were quite successful, albeit the dynamic has changed over the last 2 years. You know, we're competing for too many studies, not enough patients, and we're competing for the same patients, right?
Right.
So we need to shift the paradigm. We need to educate people, get more underserved communities involved in research, including site owners, patients, PIs, sub-Is, and everybody in between.
Well, thank you, Robert. Everybody go check Robert's LinkedIn underneath the video, and we'll do more. And
Absolutely.
hopefully we'll keep documenting how we do on the study, and maybe even interview a CRA soon. So thank you, Robert.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for having me.
Desiree. Catch you guys later. Bye bye.